Can Edgar Wright's The Running Man remake escape the curse of the original's box office disaster? Imagine a high-stakes, dystopian thriller where survival means outrunning deadly assassins on live TV. Sounds thrilling, doesn't it? But what if I told you that a beloved author, a fan-favorite director, and a rising star are teaming up for a fresh take on this concept, only to face the shadow of a flop from decades ago? That's the gripping dilemma facing Paramount's upcoming The Running Man, a readaptation of Stephen King's classic tale. With Stephen King at the height of his iconic status, Edgar Wright bringing his quirky genius, and Glenn Powell shining as a breakout talent, it feels like a recipe for blockbuster success. Yet the burning question lingers. Can this version dodge the box office pitfalls that doomed the 1987 original? It's a story full of promise and peril, and we're here to break it down step by step. But here's where it gets controversial. Some fans argue that remaking a cult classic is like tempting fate, while others see it as a bold chance to reinvent a gem. Let's dive in and see if this remake has what it takes to soar. This isn't exactly a straight-up remake of the Arnold Schwarzenegger starring film from 1987. Instead, it's more of a reimagined adaptation that draws heavily from King's source material. For newcomers to this concept, think of it as a sci-fi action story set in a bleak near-future world, where a hit TV show pits contestants against ruthless professional hunters in a month-long game of life-or-death evasion. The cast is a powerhouse lineup, featuring William H. Macy, known for his role in the TV series Shameless, Lee Pace from Foundation, Emilia Jones, the Oscar-winning Coda, Michael Cera, the hilarious Superbad, James Lawson, Sinners, Coleman Domingo, Rustin, and Josh Brolin, Weapons. Glenn Powell leads as the protagonist, carrying much of the film's weight on his shoulders. Now, let's talk box office buzz, because that's where the real intrigue lies. According to projections from Box Office Theory, The Running Man is eyeing a domestic debut in the $19 to $28 million range next weekend, right as it hits theaters on November 14th, 2025. But it's not going head-to-head with just any contenders. It'll compete with Now You See Me, Now You Don't, which is forecasted for a $12 to $17 million opening, and Oz Perkins' horror film Keeper, expected to land between $6 and $11 million. This makes for a jam-packed weekend at the multiplex, where every dollar counts. What's fascinating, and perhaps the part most people miss, is how wildly expectations have swung for this project. Early on in October, Box Office Pro predicted a much healthier $40 to $50 million launch based on initial hype. Those numbers have since cooled off, leaving forecasts feeling a bit scattered. For Paramount, the gap between a $20 million start and a $40 million one isn't just a numbers game. It's a make or break difference that could decide the film's financial fate. And this is the part most people miss. Unlike straightforward blockbusters, this could thrive on strong word of mouth, turning it into a long-haul marathon rather than a quick sprint, potentially running strong into December if audiences love it. To truly grasp why the original stumbled, let's rewind. The 1987 version, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, raked in just $38.1 million domestically, against a $27 million budget. Decent, but not the smash it could have been. Over time, it's grown into a cult favorite, beloved by fans for its over-the-top action and satire. But back then, it was a flop. Fast forward to today, and the trailers for Wright's reboot scream high-budget spectacle, with dazzling visuals and intense chases that hint at a bigger production scale. Yet, without knowing the exact budget, which Paramount hasn't disclosed, the success hinges on that crucial detail. If it's around $50 million, a $20 million opening might be manageable, especially with hopes pinned on international markets. But if they've sunk closer to $100 million, well, they'll need miracles, like explosive overseas numbers or incredible staying power to turn a profit. Glenn Powell, the film's lead, is no stranger to box office magic. Last year, he was a key force in Twisters, which shattered records for disaster films with an $81 million opening weekend before climbing to $372.2 million worldwide. Pairing with Sydney Sweeney in Anyone But You, he helped that rom-com exceed $200 million globally, proving he can attract crowds across genres. This role, though, represents his biggest challenge yet. Testing whether his charisma can single-handedly drive a sci-fi thriller to victory. For context, if you're new to Powell, he's that charismatic actor who's quickly become Hollywood's go-to for charming, action-packed leads, like the kind who makes you root for him even in a dystopian nightmare. Director Edgar Wright also brings a wealth of experience, with a dedicated fan base from hits like the zombie comedy Shaun of the Dead and the action spoof Hot Fuzz. Commercially, his standout is Baby Driver, which grossed $227 million worldwide on a modest $34 million budget. A true underdog success story. That film also marked his best opening weekend at $20.5 million. Could The Running Man propel him into blockbuster territory? It's an exciting prospect, but the pressure is on, since he's never directed a massive-scale event before. But here's where it gets really controversial. Is the reliance on a rising star like Powell and a cult director pedigree enough to overcome the original's failures? Or are we witnessing a risky gamble that might alienate purists who adored the Schwarzenegger version? Some argue that King's dystopian vision deserves a faithful update to reflect modern anxieties like surveillance and reality TV gone wrong, while others fear it could dilute the original's campy charm. What do you think? Does revisiting a flop with fresh faces guarantee redemption, or is it doomed to repeat history? Ultimately, The Running Man arrives in theaters on November 14th, 2025, and its fate rests on audience reception. Will word of mouth ignite a cult following, or will budget woes and competition sink it? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Wright's vision can outrun the original's mistakes, or are you skeptical? Would you rather see a darker, more faithful adaptation, or this high-energy reimagining? Let's discuss. What's your take on remaking classics?